We're talking about gender. We're talking about the frog people. We're talking about all the colors of the rainbow. What is a woman? What is a woman? Nobody knows now what's a woman. Okay, that was probably really cringe. Welcome to the Her Habits Diaries, my podcast. This is, I think, episode 5. Only episode 5. I feel like I suck at this, but I don't know. We're just going to try. Gonna have a conversation. I'd rather ramble about all my thoughts about gender-related stuff because I try and do commentary videos about it, and it just gets so long and all over the place. And I don't know, maybe I'll do edited videos about this stuff. Maybe I'll get the hang of the commentary edited videos at some point. But for now, like I need to just vent, I think, honestly, and to just get out my my thoughts. So I don't have a plan. I don't have notes. I just thought I would start talking. Just that's what I did last time, and I don't know, it turned out decent. I'll try not to cry this time. So, it is just like, shit is just insane lately with the not wanting to define the word woman and now saying that women have penises and all this and all that stuff. It's a thing. It just seems like it is becoming more and more of a thing. Like there were people talking about this a while ago, probably like years ago, but it's just seemed to have infiltrated so many things. And I saw a video I hadn't seen. I think it came out like a month ago, and it was just like another person it was in like the US Senate, I think, saying like refusing to define the word woman. And it's just, I have a whole thing about it. Like I've been researching and researching about gender ideology. I really like to get to the bottom of things and fully understand it and look at all the sources, all the sides, all the perspectives, and then just comprehend for myself what is really going on. I really now try to have my own opinions and not fall into the group think of things on both sides of things, because I see it on both sides. I don't like the sides to begin with, like left versus right, whatever. But it's a never ending political battle, if you will, of like us versus them, left versus right, whatever. But like obviously it's just they don't really have any meaning anymore. Like they, at this point in time, the right means a certain thing. The left means what, if you don't agree with the left now, you're just all of a sudden considered right, but it's always changing anyways. And all this, I'm on a tangent already there. What was I even saying? Guys, like I'm so ADHD. Okay. Trying to understand gender ideology. Oh yeah, I was just saying, like I look at all sides of things. So like, yeah, conservative stuff, liberal stuff, whatever. I just look at all the stuff. Those are usually the people that are talking about it. But I also really try and find people that are not just like on one side of the thing to just be on the side. Like sometimes I just see people jumping on a bandwagon where, and I've like done this myself. Like you just tend to, you agree with some things and of a group, and then you like become part of the group. And then you feel pressure to have to like agree with everything. And so I have mentioned this in a shorts video, but I will mention it again. I'm going to keep mentioning it. I'm a free agent. I am not religious. I was raised Christian. When I grew up, I rejected committing to any religious ideology. And Christianity actually, my experience, I experienced a lot of shame from just that culture, and that I was also, half my family's Greek, and I went to the Greek Orthodox Church as well, and it just like it gets infused into the culture and stuff too, and it's just, for me it was, I had a lot of shame in that. So I'm just saying, like, my views are not from a Christian standpoint whatsoever at all. There's like there's a lot about a lot of religions that I don't agree with. But gender ideology, like, I'll just say this, I've dug deep, and it really, to me, at the end of the day, when you get through what is actually teaching and doing, this is like, I'm talking about new age gender ideology. I don't know if there was an old version of just, I guess the old version would be, some people are transgender, but I'm talking about the new one where it's like infinity genders, like literally infinity genders at this point. That, and also getting to the point where it's like, oh, it's non-inclusive to now define the word woman as its original definition as an adult human female. It's at the end of the day seems to be this gender ideology, like actually enforcing the stereotypes and the gender norms of the genders of men and women. The very thing that it claims to be like fighting against, like having to conform, it's sort of, to me, saying like, if you're not a stereotypical woman or man, then you would have different pronouns, and you would not be cisgender, because the definition of cisgender is saying like how you express yourself and everything aligns with your biological sex. So they are attributing like gender norms to the biological sexes. Like they're going along with like, these are the stereotypes of the men, these are stereotypes of the women, whatever. Like say, oh, women wear dresses and men are masculine, whatever, and all the man things and all the female things. Like it's, it doesn't seem to be working as much on just normalizing people wearing whatever the frick they want. Like, it'd be great if we got to the point where there wasn't like men's clothes, women's clothes. Although I do think like for sizing and just body shape and that, I mean like, oh, dresses are women's clothes thing. Like, let's normalize men wearing dresses. Like, I think that would solve a lot of the problem and confusion being perpetuated to children these days, where it's like, you don't want to play with the truck and you want to wear your sister's dress and this and that. And like, just all the stereotypes, right? It's like, oh, my kid must be transgender now. Like, no, just let the kid be a kid. And like oh, you're assigned a gender at birth and you're just assigned that, but you should be able to pick what you are. Like, the thing is, my biological sex, like my DNA, my biology, being the biological sex of female, like does not define what I wear, my mannerisms, how I express myself, my personality traits, anything. Like, obviously there's certain characteristics, personality wise, I guess you would say, that are more common in women than men or whatever. Like, there are maybe biological things that have an effect on things like mood or personality or something like that. But there's always exceptions to these norms, obviously. But I guess I'm just talking about things like how most women experience a period and that, and like we just have different hormone levels and everything and like fluctuations, whatever. Like, I'm going to be a lot more emotional at a certain time of the month, and that, because I'm a woman, like, you know, that's affecting how I'm expressing myself, I guess, emotionally, basically being a big old bitch during that time. But those don't define my biological sex. So it's like the word woman, adult, human, female. Why do we need to change that to be more inclusive? The people pushing for the changing of that word to be more inclusive would say, what would they say? It's like excluding trans people because like women have penises too and whatever. And like that's, if someone wants to identify as a woman, you're basically excluding them if you define it as what it is in reality, adult human female. Oh, you're excluding them, whatever. Like we're perfectly capable to be accepting, to have respectful for transgender people to have human rights and everything. Like by not changing that word, we're able to still accomplish all those things. But when you start changing that word, it does start to affect, when you change the word, not only that, you change the word, and then you also start like doing things like, okay, if you say you're that, like if you identify, you are fully that completely in reality. Like anyone who says they're a woman is a woman. That is going to affect biological women. I now have to say biological women. I need to specify because women doesn't mean anymore like biological women, right? So, and like trans women can identify, they're like, what are they identifying as if you can't define it? Like they're obviously identifying as a biological woman. They're not that, unfortunately. They weren't born in that body, but they can very well, like by all means, identify as that thing. You're identifying as it. It's like there would be like, what would be the point of transitioning if not for biology and if not for trans women wanting to have been born a biological female? Like this, I hope people see this logic. Whoever is watching, welcome. This is my confusing train of thought. I'm just getting confused over here myself, like thinking about it. And like, yeah, I should have made notes of different points and things I wanted to hit, but I'm just lazy to do that. And I just thought, let's just start rolling. Where it becomes problematic is like legally in things like women's sports, women's spaces. And I'm not saying that I don't think trans women should use the women's washroom at all. Like I don't care about, I've never thought of that before. I've never had an issue. I've never cared. I care to the point where it's like all you need to do now as a man is like say you're a woman and then you have full access at that point. So it's just it's problematic now because it really seems like some people, not a lot, but there's been cases and instances where it seems like men are trying to hack the system and get into women's spaces to take advantage of women. And I just see this problematic. I see this problematic as it being that easy that like to me it's just a matter of time before it becomes more prominent and just like a bigger problem. There's been cases of women being R-worded. It's YouTube. I just don't, I'm trying to think of what words you're supposed to say. Essayed. Women essayed in like prison by transgender women. And then there was actually there was someone, they were male, they were not trans at this point in time. They essayed two females and then they were awaiting trial. And as they were awaiting trial, they then transitioned to female. And then they actually put this person in the women's prison. And they ended up moving them to the men's prison, but they initially put them in the women's prison. And then there was some backlash and concern, of course, about the women's safety. Like they were in jail for assaulting women. That's why they were going to jail. They were convicted of R-word. 2 times, 2 different people they R-worded. And it's like, it's just, this wouldn't happen years ago. This would not happen years and years ago. And I do believe also other things were tough for transgender people years and years ago too. Like also at the same time, years and years ago, like it was less inclusive in that. And there was, I'm sure, a lot of issues and transgender violence and stuff like that or whatever. But it's like, we have to somehow revise this, or like, there's got to be some safeguards put in place. It can't just be like anyone who wants to be a woman. So like, I hold both things to be true of like, it's a problem if people are like physically attacking transgender people and like transgender violence, stuff like that. But like, what now seems to be considered transgender violence is like even just my point of view, like me expressing my views, because like the woke mob now seems to consider words are violence. Like I've heard that one, and it's like they would say that I'm creating an unsafe space for trans people. Like I'm just by saying these views perpetuating trans violence, because other people who have maybe extreme views and who are like actually anti-trans people being trans, whatever, like it adds fuel to that fire or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just sad that's become to the point where it's like problematic transphobic to bring up these instances where the legal system seemed to be hijacked by this new way of just allowing people, whoever wants to, basically get in the women's prison. Like there's been some other cases of this of people, of this happening where women have gotten assaulted. There was like someone that impregnated, I think 2 women, I think it was. And then there was recently I want to say Project Veritas. There's no James. Is it James O'Keefe? Yeah, he's not on Project Veritas anymore. That was the company he started. He's got his own media group now. It's like O'Keefe Media Group. They talked to inmates in I think it's Washington State, like correctional women's facility, and they were saying that they were saying there's these R-wording people getting put in the prison, and also even in their rooms. Like they're being roomed with people that have essayed women and are in there for that too, and or something. Like they, like I don't know where the logic comes to not have a afterthought of, to not just like put the biological women's rights first when it comes to something like this person has done that. Someone's like assaulted a woman. Like, sorry, you lose your right to go to the female jail. Like, I'm sorry, like your affirmation to be in that prison, like, is just not as important at this point in time as like keeping the women safe. But like, I do agree that transgender people, especially like transgender women in men's prisons, full on target, like horrible to think of how they would be targeted and stuff like that. But it's also like in that case, I'm saying I don't think the person's actually transgender. Like, it seems like they were trying to hack the system. So it is like, how do we balance trying to protect trans women, trying to protect biological women, trying to make sure that biological men aren't just trying to hack the system? Something needs to be done. I'm going to speak about it, and I'm going to speak about how, starting with the word women to mean its original definition, that being pushed to be erased, I see that having to do with the problem, with the just identifying as a thing, and it's anything you want it to be, whatever, because like they're using these terms legally, like in legal bills and legislation and everything like that. And so we need to just keep the word the same. I think I'm done this tangent. I think this This can be a short episode. Those are my thoughts for now. I don't know. I just as a woman myself, as a biological woman, because the word woman has lost all meaning at this point, I feel like I deserve to talk about these things. And again, I think I've already expressed this during this video. I can't remember. It's all confusion up here in my brain right now. But I think I've already said about, like my personality and how I express myself and all that. Like that doesn't have to do with my biological sex. Like, the other thing I want to talk about was like the gender, the ideology itself, go a little bit more into detail and like the gender spectrum, because for a while the ideology was that gender and biological sex are two different things. And they would say, okay, there's biological sex and there's gender, and gender is a social construct, and it's constructed by society, like gender roles and norms or whatever. And I feel like the norms and the stereotypes themselves are constructed by society. I do think there is some biological factors in like why the stereotypes exist, like how maybe men gravitate towards certain jobs and women gravitate to like other jobs, or say like childcare. And then men maybe are doing more, I don't know, labor jobs. Like I don't fit those stereotypes. I always wanted to do labor jobs. I went firefighting. I've worked at a construction site. I did landscaping, and so that was the original thing going on, was that it was actually two separate things, and like your gender identity is how you feel. But now it seems to have morphed into biological sex is the spectrum in and of itself, is the gender spectrum. And it's like, if you feel a certain way, then you are in reality that, like, or they're trying to say that we've like completely constructed like biological sex, even, it seems, just like the new stuff that is being said, or like me having discussions with people in my comment section. It's like, oh, well, there's a spectrum, whatever. And yeah, there's a spectrum to humans, to men and to women. No two men are alike. No two men are exactly alike. There's similarities. No two women are exactly alike. No two humans are exactly alike. So yeah, we have different personalities. We have different DNA. We all have our own DNA, except I think identical twins would have identical DNA, personalities, whatever. So to me too, it's like this infinity gender thing. It's like you're just creating more categories. Why I say infinity genders, because like, well, I did a sketch called Infinity Genders and whatever, and that's just like what I call it now, because there is infinity when there's like with neo pronouns, there's infinity at this point. You can't cap it off. It's like we go by biological sex, male, female. I would consider intersex to be like a third gender, because the people don't fit the characteristics of us. A lot of intersex people have, like, I think most have more characteristics of one or the other. Like they're more biologically female than male, or something, and vice versa. But so what was I saying? I can't even remember my thoughts. It's so sorry. This is like hard to do by myself. I wanted to have someone on with different perspectives. I'm trying to get that happening, to talk about all this and have like a debate, I guess, or just a discussion, just to share our own different viewpoints. But until then, it's just me and my clunky ass way of doing the shit. But the spectrum. Okay, so biological sex itself being the spectrum. Okay. There's just biological sex. I think of it solely as like reproductive organs and the ability to, like, you need a male sex and a female sex to be able to create offspring and whatever. Like I just think of it as biology when I took biology in school and we had to learn about the animals, and there was even like asexual animals and intersex and then a male and female, of course. And so, but along that, like there's going to be varying characteristics of those individual animals or people. Again, I was already talking about this of like, we've got different personality traits and this and that, but like we can still define biological sexes. And that also, that doesn't, again, I already said this, doesn't define me as a woman, as a human. Like I happen to be the biological sex that has potential at least to get pregnant. Like, not all women are able to and this and that. But the thing is, we would never expect we would never expect the male sex to get pregnant or be able to menstruate. Like, it's just like, it'll never happen. Maybe science will advance and we'll be able to like fully transition people like for real. But for now, it's like, why wouldn't we expect that? Why wouldn't we expect male to get pregnant? Because they are the male sex, and we know what male and female is. And I don't feel like it's limiting us as humans to express ourselves by still acknowledging biology, sex, biology. Like to me, it's like acknowledging our different appearances, like that we look different or whatever. Like, why do you want or need to like erase all like us having any differences? It's just, to me, if you continue to do that and push that and have like completely non-gendered language and to be like, no, we're like pretty much exactly the same, like men or women are like, let's not acknowledge any differences. Like it gets to like a dehumanizing level. And it reminds me of like, well, I'm reading Orwell's 1984 right now. I had never read it. Like people would reference it all the time with just like dystopian societies. And so it was just like how our society is starting to seemingly go a little bit south and become a little bit dystopian with what's going on and freedom of speech and everything. And like in the novel in 1984, they just call everyone comrade. I think because it's like gender neutral, whatever, but like they haven't gone into really a whole thing about like gender in the book yet or anything. But it's like they in the book, they are very dehumanized and have like no freedom of speech, and they have to believe like non-truths, and there's terms like wrong think, wrong speech, and it just reminds me of like hate speech nowadays, right? Like what is considered hate speech is literally just people sharing their own opinions. Sharing your own opinion is now considered hate speech. It's insane. But yeah, we can acknowledge our differences. So without it being non-inclusive or detrimental to people being able to live however they want to live and express themselves however they want to express themselves. Except, sorry, if you have R-worded a woman, you should not have access to the women's prison. I think that's fair. There's a way to still protect that person if they are vulnerable to the men in the jail, if they're truly transgender and they are a target. I don't know, maybe there's like another ward to the jail or something, like, I don't know, or they have their own room at least and their own shower space and everything. Like you protect them as much as you can, but gotta protect the biological woman too. And okay, I think I'm actually done now. Those are my points. I feel like I suck at podcasting right now. Sorry, that was painful to probably get through, but I don't know. I think I'm just gonna post it anyways. Love you guys, and stay tuned for more content.